All right, hello and welcome to my 5,000 subscriber Q&A special. I've got some questions here. Now, come on, let's go do this somewhere more interesting.
Nah, let's do this somewhere else. All right. Well, that's better, yeah. I felt like this would be a good location for my 5,000 subscriber special, Q&A special. And the first question comes from... In fact, no, I was originally going to film this from the top. I'm on a volcano in Guatemala called Acatenango, and I was going to film it from the top, but it was so cloudy and so windy, insert footage here, that, couldn't see anything. There you go. Look, it's actively erupting. Isn't that cool? That's called Volcan de Fuego, Volcano of Fire. Very on-the-nose name. So the first question comes from...
Ricky Bobby 9255.
And it's, who are you? My name is Gabe. I'm from the UK, more specifically Brighton. I'm a journalist. And I don't really know what else to say. I'm in my 30s. Sorry. And that's about it, really. I would talk about why I started a YouTube channel, but that is being asked in a different question, which is coming now. So the next question comes from
Jim Hickson.
And it's, I can't remember the wording exactly, but it's something along the lines of, what inspired you to make this channel? And I suppose the answer would be like, I love the Tim Traveller and Tom Scott and all those guys. And there was never a part of me that thought, I could do that, because that would be really arrogant. But I thought what they were doing just looked really fun. And I initially just sort of started it as a project for myself. I had a bit of spare time a couple years back due to a big life change. And so I flew to Germany and filmed the Leipzig and Berlin videos. And I kind of just uploaded them for my own sake and maybe for my friends. And I never expected anybody to really watch them, let alone for me to have, 5,000 subscribers. And so basically boredom, and also just as a sort of passion project. That's what started it. On to the next question. So the next question from a user whose name I can't get at the moment because I'm here and there's no signal. We're very much off the grid here. Is what's your favorite place you've ever visited? And that is quite a hard question because I have a ranking of every country I've ever visited. I have a Google Doc. It's like I've been to 70 now. Guatemala, I've been to 77 countries, and they're all ranked in order. And the top three, I think it's Japan third, Norway second, and Jordan first. I love Jordan. And I think Armenia was fourth. But in terms of places, I would say probably Easter Island. Now, I don't usually like saying that because it's one of those things where like it's a bit of a flex, like going, my favorite place is actually Easter Island, which is like the hardest place on earth to get to, because then it's kind of giving off the vibe of like, and I know you haven't been there, so you wouldn't know. But no, Easter Island, I loved Easter Island. It was incredible. But I like Guatemala as well. That's about it, really. So the next question comes from Judy CZ or CZ. I don't know which one it is. And it's, how do you come up with places to visit? And that's kind of complicated. I mean, there's Atlas Obscura. That's an amazing sort of online directory that I'm sure a lot of you know, that contains basically just weird stuff around the world, including a lot of transport and engineering stuff. Beyond that, Wikipedia is just an amazing resource for sort of weird shit around the world. And then there's just forums. There's lots of sort of like Rail UK forums. They have a lot of chats about unusual stuff like all over Europe and all over the world. And sometimes you just go down a sort of rabbit hole on those and you'll find something that you've never heard of before. Other than that, there are a few ones that that I've recorded and a few that that I'm going to publish soon that I honestly can't really remember where I found them. Usually it's just a sort of Wikipedia rabbit hole that I go down. And that's about it, really.
Briefly back in London to answer this question, which is from Judy CZ, which is, tell us more about your cat and all the quirks she has that you meticulously follow because she's your boss. Well, the cat that was posted on my profile the other day is called Phyllis. It's actually not my cat, it's my parents' cat. But she does happen to be here. Sitting right here. There she is. My parents like giving cats old people names, but yes, she is 19 years old. She's been with me been with my parents since I was 15 then, I guess. Yeah, she's very nice. And she doesn't really demand anything. She doesn't have any quirks or anything that we need to follow. She just, at this age, they just sort of sit and sleep most of the day. So yeah, here she is. Right, I'm going to head back to El Salvador.
The next question comes from Chris B. And I can't believe I've chosen such a spectacular location to answer this question, but it's... What is it again? I ask this to all YouTubers. Describe your ideal slice of toast. So, middle-class credentials coming out here. The M&S San Francisco sourdough, the white one. So good. Bit of butter on it, lightly toasted. Maybe like a 3 or a 4 on the toaster. Maybe even a 2 if I'm feeling spicy. Nothing more burnt than that. A burnt piece of toast is an abomination. And yeah, nothing but butter. We don't need anything else. We don't need peanut butter. We don't need any of that nonsense. We sometimes need Marmite, maybe if our salt levels are running low. I don't know why I'm saying we. I mean me. Yeah, so basically just sourdough with butter. I don't know. The next question comes from
Ralph Ford.
And is, what is something historical that doesn't exist anymore that you would like to bring back? And I feel like this is a rather apt location for this question. And it's basically any old train line or rail route that doesn't exist anymore. El Salvador's, it doesn't exist anymore because it's complicated. Basically, they had a civil war. The ownership of the railways changed hands loads of time, and it basically just fell into disrepair. And like, this is pretty much all that's left. Guatemala, where I was before, that was another example where, you know, it changed hands lots of times, and it was controlled for a very long time by the United Fruit Company, who are pretty evil. But then as soon as it switched back into the hands of the Guatemalan government in the 1970s, I think, it then fell into disrepair because they didn't have the money following another civil war that they had. So yeah, I guess that. And also, like, if you watch my Armenia video, that would be the ultimate example. That was such an amazing tool, that the Yerevan to Baku line, and yet now it's just nothing. And obviously in the UK, we had our own version of this with the beaching cuts, and where we, in the 1960s, we ripped up thousands of miles of track and closed thousands of stations, and 70,000 jobs were lost from British Rail. And I know, obviously, a lot of the network was very unprofitable, so there's an argument to say it needed to be done to an extent, but I feel like we had such an extraordinary lack of foresight when it came to doing that, because we sold off all the land that the lines were once on. Meaning we never really allowed for the rebuilding of them further down the line. And also, the ripping up of rail lines in like suburban parts of London and other big cities, it's like, that's crazy. Like, sure, rip up a line to a village that serves 5 people, whatever. But to get rid of all the stations in, like, you know, there were, in my hometown of Brighton, there were stations that were abandoned. And in London, where I live now, there are tons. And all over the country, there are these sort of inner city or suburban stations that were abandoned. And that's just a disastrous idea if you then consider the later population growth that would happening. Basically, Dr. Beeching and Ernest Marples, if you're watching this from beyond the grave, I don't know, go do one. Right, well, the next question, I jokingly mentioned that somebody should ask me what my favorite kind of khachapuri is. And I actually got 2 people asking me, Ricky Bobby 9255 and Tom Lampard. I hope no relation to Frank Lampard, as I am a West Ham fan, and I don't like him. But no, my favourite type of khachapuri, for many years, it was a Megrelian khachapuri, because I was too chicken to eat the raw egg on an Ajarian khachapuri. And then I went to Georgia and I had a proper Ajarian khachapuri, and it was like touching the face of God. It was like viewing, I was going to say viewing Volcan de Fuego. That's not even Volcan de Fuego, that's Volcan de Agua, and you can't see it anyway. What a terrible answer this was. All right, well, the next question comes from Eloise Chelsea 9, and I'm going to keep this one quick because it's absolutely fucking boiling out here. Of all the places you've travelled, which would be top of your list if you were to relocate? Which I suppose is different from your favourite places generally. I don't know. It wouldn't be Central America. It's too hot for me, as much as it is very lovely to visit. I mean, if I were to be really boring, I'd say somewhere like Austria, because I think the scenery is amazing, and I really like the food, and they do good wine. I mean, Singapore is very nice, but it's a bit of a sort of authoritarian police state. I don't know, really. It wouldn't be Australia, New Zealand. I feel like it would have to be somewhere that doesn't speak English. I am also half American, so I could just relocate to America, but I'm not going to do that right now. So my answer is Austria, I guess? I don't even know. I should have thought about this before I started answering this question. All right, and for the final question of the Q&A, which comes from probably the most spectacular location in Guatemala, we have a question from
707 Stian.
And my girlfriend here is going to read it, or ask me.
Okay, so the question is, do you watch a lot of YouTube channels outside of the travel sphere, the Tim Traveller, Tom Scott type? And if so, what have you been enjoying lately?
Yes, I'm an obsessive YouTube watcher. That's one of the reasons I started the channel. And I suppose, like, you know, there's the obvious, there's the Jeff Marshall, there's the Jay Foreman, there's, I mean, Jetlag the Game by the Half as Interesting and Wendover production guys is just like the best fun. It's like the best show on any platform at the moment, like including Netflix and all that sort of stuff. I'm also, I have a degree in music, so I love music. So I've got David Bruce, Adam Neely obviously is a big name. Ben Levin is a more niche cut. He's made some really interesting and strange stuff. Who else? I suppose the big one that I wanted to shout out was a guy called Fredo Rockwell, who he's like a sort of travel YouTuber, but he has an absolute thirst for unrecognized micronations. He's like the king of disputed territories, and he's a slightly smaller channel, but his stuff is really fascinating. And I actually was inspired to make one of my more recent videos after I watched one of his, which is about a special place in Italy that I'm not going to disclose yet. But yeah, no, Fredo Rockwell, definitely worth checking out. He's really interesting stuff. And that is about it for my Q&A. It was supposed to be 5,000, but currently I'm on about just short of 7,000. And by the time this video goes live, it might even be more. So thank you for watching, and thank you for subscribing, everybody. And yeah, it really means a lot. And it's a mad adventure that I wasn't expected to take off this fast, and it's been great. So, bye!